Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Can we really call it the start of the Christmas period? I'm not sure, but we're definitely getting close to crunch time in the season. This weekend the X2O Trophy heads to Herentals and the World Cup heads to Namur for the third round. It was supposed to be the fourth round, but the race in Cabras got cancelled last week, as you all probably know. With me here to take a look ahead at that World Cup is Issam. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
As said, Issam, we're approaching crunch time in the season. It's going to be very, very busy for the riders, also for us. I do look forward to it. It is the most wonderful time of the year. Unfortunately, the weather has not really hit peak cyclocross conditions so far. It's been quite dry here the last weeks. Probably week. It goes a week without rain seems like weeks without rain in this country, of course. Maybe on Sunday we will get some rain, potentially even some snow early in the morning, so that could do something to the course in Namur. Compared to last year, they have made one essential change to the course. It's going to become a bit shorter, so it will mean more laps. The loop around the old theatre, which they introduced for the European Championships, has been scrapped according to their website. The World Cup website claims something else, but it would be the second week in a row they messed up the course map, so I'm counting on that. It's been restored to what was the old course, where you came down this tarmac-ish road, completely ruined, and then you had this left-hander 180, needed to jump the sidewalk onto a not really muddy, but like semi-packed climb. So that's the only change to the course. Let's start with the women's preview. Issam, Puck Pieterse is starting her cyclocross season. This is going to be her program. The World Cup in Namur is the first one. Then next weekend she races Hulst and Zonhoven. Gaveren on Boxing Day. Diegem on the 30th. Baal on New Year's Day. Then Koksijde Dendermonde Dutch Championships. She has then to be confirmed for Benidorm and Maasmechelen, and then she will conclude the season with Hogerheide, World Cup and Worlds in Louvain. What do you think of her program, Issam, and will she feature for the victory immediately in Namur?
Well, I think that the program is a realistic one. I think it's solid. Pretty much the amount of races I think that she needs to be at her best at the Worlds. I think that there's not that much wrong with it. I also like that they are not really confirming at the moment if she will be racing Benidorm and Maasmechelen. I think that's also solid decision, to be honest. Wait a little bit, see how it goes, and then from there you make the decisions. If you need a training camp without some races within that period, then overall I think that's just a very solid program. In terms of her chances at Namur, it's a course where she definitely will find her strengths, but it's just a question of at what form she will appear. I think that she will definitely be someone that will definitely be around the top 5 most likely if nothing goes wrong. But I'm just wondering if she has enough to fight for a podium and victory. I mean, it's definitely doable, but it is going to be interesting. I don't know. It's for me a bit of a question mark.
I will say she's going to be in the mix for the victory here. It's the best course of the season for her. The disadvantage is she will be starting on the third row because the first 2 rows are gridded based on World Cup ranking, and she isn't in that ranking so far. But I don't think that will form a major liability. We've seen this year Brandt doesn't really have the best starts. You can probably count on somebody like Schreiber taking the whole shot, setting a pace which is rapid but not that rapid. It gives you some time before you see the Fem van Empels, Lucinda Brandt, and the Carmen Alvarado's hit the front. Normally that's towards the end of the first lap, and Pieterse, I imagine, will have moved up quite a bit by then. So I think she should be in the mix. I like her program. I like the fact that she's taken some rest. Okay, it was 2 weeks off the bike and then she started going again. Maybe that should have been a bit longer, but again, I'm just happy she didn't race for a significant period of time, and this seems like a good calendar. She clearly prioritizes the World Cups. I think that will help her starting position. She should be able to start on the front row at the World Championships in Louvain, and that's ultimately what matters for her, right? She wants to become world champion this season. She'll do a light triple crown. If she succeeds, it would be mountain bike and world's elite titles, and then the road U23 title. So I really look forward to seeing her in action. Her technical skills will suit her on this course, and I think that will mean she features for the victory here. Her technical skills are more refined than those of Van Empel and Brandt. Alvarado, this is not the best course for her. She has won here in the past, so it's definitely not like she will struggle as hard as on the Koppenberg, because she can compensate a bit with her technical abilities. She even won here last year, I think. Am I right?
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, you're right.
So she should be in the mix here as well, even though it's maybe not the best course for her. So I think we should be in for a good battle between those 4 riders, and Pieterse will definitely feature, and who will get the upper hand, that remains to be seen. But I think the technical skills will play a big role here, as always, because we've seen Van Empel make some mistakes this season. Brandt doesn't really make mistakes, but with her excessive downhill risk-taking, you never know when things go wrong. And Alvarado, you probably won't make a mistake, but the question is, how will she do uphill? It's kind of interesting. 2 categories, right? Like, technically refined, Pieterse and Alvarado, powerhouses, Van Empel and Brandt.
Yeah, I definitely think that both will play a role in a way. It's both the technical abilities that you definitely need on a course like Namur, but a bit of power wouldn't be a bad thing to master, or to have at least to your advantage. I think that if I remember the course from last year, or at least the race, how it went, it's, despite your technical abilities, of course, you don't need to make the big mistakes in a way, because that's really going to cost you. But if you're managed just to get through the course somewhat, okay, without that many mistakes, it's, you don't need to be give a masterclass in terms of the technique and handling the bike throughout the course. But your power is definitely something that you will need, but also pacing yourself. You should not really go ahead of yourself in the beginning laps. The opening laps are going to be crucial. If you go a bit too fast there, it could cost you at the end of the race.
Yeah, power is super important on this course. Technical abilities are really an issue. Like, I've seen many youth races there, for instance, at the European Championships. If you go across the off-camera there, like I saw Kat Ferguson do there as a first-year U23, or last year as Raphael Carrier, then it really starts hurting you, and you lose significant time because it has some challenging features. If you cannot properly take that downhill onto the cobbles, and you need to, or you try to ride it but you crash, you don't opt for walking, then that also hurts you significantly. That there, running that downhill doesn't lose you that much time. If you need to run part of the off-camber, it does. If you can't make the corner after and need to run the climb, it costs you a lot of time and energy. We're probably not talking about that big differences at the front of the Women Elite race, but still, I will again say Van Empel has been making a couple of technical mistakes this season. Brandt maybe not as much, but we've also seen her struggle. Her starts are a bit of a vulnerability this season. I don't think it will play a major role here in Namur, but you never know, right? It's better to have a good start. This is no rocket science what I'm saying now, but at some point a bad start will cost her, just like it's cost Zweek many times this season. So it's hard. I look forward to this race a lot because they're coming back from training. We haven't seen Alvarado race in 3 weeks. It's the first time Pieterse races. Van Empel comes back from a super short stint. She won 1 race in Antwerp, but then didn't win in Dublin. Brandt did win in Dublin, but didn't win in Antwerp. Looked tired, was going to race in Italy last week, didn't really do the full training camp therefore. So the dynamics coming in here are interesting. Do you see any other contenders on this course, or is it really between these 4 Dutch riders?
I think it's a safe bet to say that it will be between those 4. And there are big question marks in a way how they will return from either training camp or a shortened training camp, because of, as you said, with Brandt focusing on wanting to race Cabras as well, but that didn't happen. But it's I think if you look further into the field, it's obviously going to be interesting to see if the ones that were able to kind of be somewhat close, the likes of a Casasola, how will they get going? Will they fill in the top 5, or will they even play a role at the front if one of those 4 are not able to deliver to the expectations that we have at the moment. So I think that is the one that now pops up in a way is Casasola. She has the power. The question is, will she be able to have a flawless race, or at least as flawless as possible, as little mistakes as you can make. I think that if she has good legs and is able to get there, she has a very good chance of definitely a top 5, but if one of those 4 doesn't deliver, I think that a podium is maybe possible for her.
Casasola would probably be, based on the season so far, be a rider to consider, but what I just mentioned about it really becomes a big vulnerability if you can't take that off camber properly. Casasola is a rider I'm really worried about for that section, because she, as we've seen, for instance, in Beringen, that off-camber, yes, it's the first race of the season, but that off-camber downhill, that was such a vulnerability for her, that race. And if you remember back to Lokeren, that one off-camber section there was also a vulnerability to her in that race. And Namur has the biggest off-camber of the entire season. Yes, it's not as challenging as it used to be, but still, I think that will be a vulnerability for her. Yes, she was 4th here last year, but she was also 2 minutes down on Alvarado. So the gaps will be big and they will be significant, and Casasola is stronger than last year, but to compete with those 4 riders, I just see that be very, very difficult, because her technical skills are not good enough for those high risk, high reward sections of the course. And I think that's also going to be a vulnerability for Backstedt on this course. I saw her win the World Cup here as a second year junior. That was not an impressive win compared to the rest of the season. Molengraaf was a lot closer. At the European Championships here as a first year U23, when she finished second at the World Championships, she finished 5th here at the European Championships. Last year she finished outside of the top 20 in this race. So for Backstedt, the combination of technical skills, elevation in this course doesn't make me consider her as a podium contender. She should do better than 20-something, what she was last year. But I can't really see those 2 riders compete. I would more point towards Blanka Vash, who finished on the podium when the European Championships were here, rather than any of those 2. What do you think about the chances of the SD Works rider?
I can see you making that point. I think that for Vash definitely is if the race goes her way a little bit, she gets going and gets in a good rhythm, I think that is definitely within her possibilities. But I think, as we have seen in Dublin, I think that part of the racecraft, or at least just small things, could sometimes have very big consequences in a way, and especially with Vash. And I think that the potential is definitely there. I just don't know if it will come out on a course like Namur. Normally, I would definitely say that she's someone that could battle for a top 5 or even a podium if, as I said, if the women up front do not deliver. But I feel that it's just she needs to be on her A game, and she also doesn't need to make silly mistakes in terms of whatever bike changes, just small things that could lead up to bigger things. And then if you do that lap after lap, it could cost you quite some energy and could cost you valuable positions at the end of the race. So it's, for me, it's a bit of a difficulty to put Vash as a top 5 contender, but I definitely think that it's within her abilities to be up there. It's it's more, I need a confirmation. That's more what I need right now. So I hope that I get that on the Sunday, but that's definitely going to be interesting.
If we speak in terms of pattern in the results, it's time for a good result for Vash in Namur. In the 2020-2021 season, when she kind of broke through-ish there, I think we can say. She was 5th in this race. Then the year after, she had a DNF here. Then in 2022-2023 at the European Championships, it was a 3rd place. Last season, she was still struggling with fully finding form after that collarbone fracture. She finished 11th here, so then now it would be time for a good result. My concern is a bit that she often tends to struggle a bit with her first race back from training camp, so that could definitely be a factor here, but we'll see. I mean, she's committed to the rest of the World Cup, I think. And her results in Antwerp and Dublin were not horrible. She can make a play for top 3 in the overall potentially, considering she's probably doing all of them. She should be able to do fine. I look forward to seeing Vash, but again, I think it's going to be between Brandt, Van Empel, Pieterse and Alvarado for the win here. I also don't really see it in Schreiber. Yes, last year she was okay here, but the gaps were too big. It's not like she does horrible on climbing courses, but it's also clearly not her preferred course. And for the rest, the riders like Vorst, Betsema, why am I even mentioning Betsema? More Van der Heijden. I don't see it at the moment. The gaps are too big. It's quite clear that there is a pecking order, and they are not in it this season for the wins and podiums. One rider I would still like to mention before we make a prediction, Issam, is Kat Ferguson. She's starting her season in Herentals. She's doing the following races: Namur, Hulst, Zonhoven, Mol, Gaveren, Loenhout, Besançon, Diegem, National Championships, Benidorm, Maasmechelen, Hogerheide World Championships. I don't think it's realistic to expect that Kat Ferguson will be in contention for a top 5. Even a top 10 is a big ask. I think, personally, her Christmas schedule is a bit too packed. Hulst-Zonhoven Mol is 3 days in a row. Then 2 more days midweek. Boxing Day Gaveren, next day Loenhout. Then Besançon, immediately next day Diegem. It's maybe a bit too packed for my liking, but she also needs to learn a lot, so I can kind of understand it, and she'll be fresh because she'll take a 2-week break after Diegem until Nationals, and then she'll train in Spain. So I can kind of see the reasoning, but maybe 1 or 2 races less would have been better. What do you think about her for this season?
Well, I think for her it's going to be a lot of learning and a lot of trying, I guess, and see where the progress goes. I think that I totally agree with you that it's quite a packed group of races that she's going to be doing till Diegem, and then from there obviously she has the 2 weeks, so that is sort of a positive. But I think if it was up to me, I would have removed at least Loenhout and then probably Mol as well, and then just go with the World Cups there and have Herentals as the first race. I thought that's not really a big deal, and finish it off with Diegem and then have the 2 weeks. But it's not up to me. Decisions are made by her and the team, and I think in a way I see what they're trying to do. I just hope that it doesn't backfire, and then from there it's just all about learning. I think that for her it's all about learning and trying to enjoy it as well. I think she likes to do cyclocross, but it's gonna be it's gonna be a little tough. Interesting to see what the results will be like, because I think that it's a talent in a way, yeah. So it's going to be great to see what she can, if she can deliver to a certain expectation. But we surely shouldn't be expecting too much. I think that is just going to be great to see her in the field. Yeah, and just, excited to see her back, and we'll see what comes out of it.
So then drop the predictions for Namur, Issam. Top 3 and placement for Kat Ferguson.
Oh, specific. Well, I mean, I haven't thought of this, to be honest. Oh, God. So many question marks. That's the thing that really makes me think much harder than I should have. I would go for Van Empel winning. Quite boring, but I think that she will come back quite strong, and that should normally be a race where she can, if she has good legs, nothing happens, doesn't make big mistakes, then I think that Van Empel could take this. I would say then Brandt in second and Pieterse third.
Okay. And what about Kat Ferguson?
I've Herentals as well before, so I would say that if she finishes in the top 20, I think it's a very good result. I think somewhere between 20 and 25th, something around there.
I'm going to go higher for Ferguson. I'm going to say 17th. And my podium will be Puck Pieterse taking the W upon return. No L's handed out by Lucinda this time. She will be the first one to take one in the 2nd place, with 3rd place going to Van Empel. Then for the men's race, Issam, also some question marks here. Hopefully we'll get some answers this weekend. Lots of riders returning. Of course, last weekend there was no racing. big question mark to me is what can Thibaut Nys do? He had, after that win in Lokeren, a bit of a fallback. They said the training camp in Spain should be good again, but I don't know. Van der Haar, another question mark. He was kind of fading. How will he bounce back? Pim Ronhaar, that's another rider on the Bauhaus Trek Lions. Question mark. He looked okay in Dublin. What can he do here in Namur? He was second here last year. It's a good course for him. Iserbyt and Van Toerenhout, the men of the past few weeks, their momentum has been stopped because there was no race last week. 1-2 in the World Cup. Not a course for Zweek. Course for Michels this. What can Viseuren do? What can Toon Aerts do? It's wide open as it's been all season. We have a bit of a difference on how we think this race play out. I think we'll have a scenario somewhat similar to Overijse, that we get a couple of attacks, things stay together quite long till the end, and then we get somebody who goes away in the final 15 minutes. You think somebody will go away earlier? I just named the question marks. What do you think coming into this weekend?
It's tricky because, as you said, it's quite open, and I think that the names that you mentioned definitely all have somewhat of a chance, and I think that they will all enter the race thinking they have a chance of doing well, getting on the podium, or even winning. As you said, I feel that this is a race in which, because of that, some riders will definitely think that they could just go from the start and go hard. I think that is it's going to separate the field a little bit, and I think that because Namur just gives you those sections where you can, rip it open and put the power down, I think that will make the difference compared to what we have seen before, and that needs to create some sort of separation, I feel, and then the racing will definitely be. We might see one or two at the front and maybe someone a bit closer behind, but I don't think it's going to be as close as we have seen so far. I think that tendency will be broken. I don't see it happening that way. But I definitely have the same sort of question marks you have. I mean, for example, the Nys started, difficult and then came towards that European Championships and it got better and better. Got the title, and then from there on it kind of we went somewhat back again to Nys searching. He was unfortunate, but it wasn't the greatest of forms he was showing in the last couple of weeks. And it's now going to be a question if he can bounce back. I think that he gets a course if he's 100%, where he should normally be a favorite. To be honest, should win it. That's a big question mark. Is he going to be able to deliver? Is he going to be able to get to a form in which he can challenge for the win? And that's going to be one of many question marks that we're going to have. We're always going to have some sort of question marks, but I feel that we are now, Herentals Namur, and then next week or next weekend, we definitely going to see some. We will know where we are at that point, and then from there on, when we enter the Christmas period, it's going to be certain riders choosing certain races, and the fatigue will kick in at some point. But you at least see some sort of a consistent form, because when you enter the Christmas period with a certain form, it's normally not going to get better, it's going to get worse, and at the end of it you're going to hope finally to get some a week of rest before the Nationals.
Yeah, the cards are really going to be on the table. There's no hiding anymore. You can't bluff, you can't overplay your hand, apart of course in the race by starting too fast, but this is pretty much going to be it, right? You can improve like bits and pieces through minor things, but you're not magically going to find that much more form over this period. You need to have shown something at some point, and if you haven't shown it in a couple of weeks, you need to get something on the table now. It's like last year. Look, Van Toerenhout managed to turn it around without being great in the Christmas period, but really that's the exception. This is what it's going to be for the rest of the season. Of course, the type of courses matter. I don't think we'll see the best Viseuren here this weekend. I don't think we'll see the best Zweek here this weekend, and I don't think we should have high expectations for them or draw any conclusions if they don't perform this weekend, because this is just not their type of course. And that's the reality of cyclocross, and that's fine. But as you say, this course should suit Nice, and it should suit Aerts. If they don't do well here, we can ask what that means for the rest of the weeks coming. This weekend, you can still call in the excuse of, oh, I did a lot of road training, Nice, I came from Lidl Trek, didn't touch the cross bike, blah, blah, blah. That's only valid this weekend. This weekend, you can still do a bit of hiding, but really then, next week, Hulst Zonhoven, there's no hiding anymore. Hulst Zonhoven, also more normal, traditional, typical cross courses for what we'll get the rest of the season. So it will be interesting. I think we will see a good Ronhaar this weekend. I really just don't know what I'm basing it off. It's just a feeling. It might be wrong. But Ronhaar, I think Van Toerenhout will be good. I like what I've seen from him the past couple of weeks. He's always good at this course. That European title he got here was quite impressive. I think Aerts will be in the mix. I think Iserbyt will, as every race this season, be in the mix. And then I think Nice or Van der Haar will be in the mix. I'm curious to see what Michels can do, but probably it's too big of an ask to repeat something like he showed in Lokeren, where he finished on the podium beating a couple of big guys. So ultimately, I think the riders I just mentioned, Van Toerenhout, Iserbyt, then Nice or Van der Haar, and Ronhaar with Toon Aerts will be the riders up front in this race. I would probably be inclined to say that Van Toerenhout as leader in the World Cup has the slight edge for me, but it will also depend a bit on the weather. If it is raining and it does get muddy, that will benefit him. If the course is drier and faster, I could easily see Iserbyt run away with the victory here, because then the course is a lot easier and he can really use his punchiness to his effect. For Ronhaar, the same. If it's fast, I don't really see him do well. If it's muddy, I think he will finish on the podium. Nice, I think I will be decent, but not special yet. I think what I just said, that is the excuse he's going to be calling in around the race. Van der Haar, I don't know, and Aerts, he'll probably find a way to lose it, even though he should be winning.
Oh, God. No, I think Aerts has a good chance, to be honest. I think that if he stays out of trouble, and gets himself at the front, I think then there's not much he can do wrong here. I think, it's a tricky course and all that, but I think that tactically you can only overcook yourself by going too fast in a way. But I don't think that he has the experience. He's not going to do that. But it's a course where if you're leading, it's not a disaster like it would have been in Dublin, I think. And therefore I feel that because the tactical element is a little less, I feel that he definitely has probably one of his bigger chances this season. So we will look forward to this race, and I think that if he has a good day, he's definitely ones to watch for victory in my eyes.
Well, you say that he won't do that, but we've seen him do it, right? Like in Dublin he went too early, in Beringen he went too early, in Merckxplas he shot everything he had too early. He does do that, and we don't need to repeat what I said in the Dublin podcast, but I think he has an opportunity to win, but I don't think he will capitalize upon it. I would be inclined to say Van Toerenhout will take the win ahead of Ronhaar, and then third place probably for Iserbyt. But again, I'm not feeling that confident ahead of this week. I'm quite excited, probably also because there was no racing last weekend. Somebody who I didn't mention actually so far was Niels van der Putten. But maybe you'll take him in your predictions.
Nah, I think that he could play a role for a top 5, but I feel that he will struggle a little bit here. I was going to say Iserbyt, but I'm going to go all in on Toon Aerts. I think that he will do it. I think that the form is good. This could be really an opportunity for him. So I would say Toon Aerts wins it. Iserbyt second. Either Van Toerenhout or Nice third. Depends on how Nice comes back. I think Van Toerenhout will round up the podium, to be honest. That's my prediction.
Then one more thing. The U23 world champion Tibor Del Grosso is starting his season in Herentals. He will race the elite race in Namur. He is a rider I look forward to seeing. It's unfortunate but understandable that he hasn't been in action so far, but he is the U23 world champion for a reason, right? He dominated those races last year. He's a final year U23 now. Last year he showed some form by finishing 10th in Hulst. He was 5th in Zolder. He's shown glances, right? But he didn't do too many elite races because his season is so short. So I think this will be a rare opportunity to see how he does on a course which I think should be quite good for him. I mean, he's a technical rider. He has decent amount of power. I think he could potentially break into the top 10, but it's hard guessing when we only have his Strava files from his training.
I think that a top 10 is definitely should be an aim for him. I think that is doable, realistic. It will depend on how he will enter, what the form will be, and how Herentals went as well. But I think that he normally, if he has a very good form, he should definitely be able to fight for a top 10. But it's a talent, it's a big one, and it's someone that if he give him a couple of years and if he gets through with his development, definitely someone that we could maybe expect in the future at the front. But it's it's going to be interesting to see what he can do.
Then I'm going to put you on the spot here, Issam. Do you remember who won the men's race last year in Namur?
Pidcock, I think.
Correct.
Must be.
That's my bridge to some other news, because this week it was announced that he has made the move to Q36.5 after all. I think we covered his story a bit earlier this season. I don't really want to make a too long discussion out of it, but I think it's an interesting move. Clearly he wasn't in his place at Ineos. They eventually found a way out. I've said it earlier, I don't think Tom Pidcock has what it takes to win or podium the Tour. I think he would be better off focusing on one-day races, stage hunting and Grand Tours, doing some mountain bike and some cyclocross around it if he wants. But he now goes to a team where he likely won't race the Tour next year, because I can't see them getting a wildcard invite. It will be really interesting to follow what he will do, right? So he won't race any cyclocross before the 1st of January. I don't know if he'll race any cyclocross at all. Pinarello did announce that he will be sticking with their bikes for the off-road disciplines, cyclocross and mountain bikes, so that would open some sort of opening. The Team Q36.5 is owned by the person who also owns or has a majority stake in Pinarello. So the road team will likely also switch to Pinarello bikes at some point, because Pidcock is there now. It will be, again, interesting to see how that develops. Like, what will it do? He comes in kind of a different environment, but he brings all his staff with him and stuff. So it's just the mental environment that changes. I don't really know if performance-wise anything will change, because, again, he's bringing the same mechanics with him. He's bringing his own doctor with him. He's bringing his own trainer with him. So his entourage stays the same. They've just been booted out of Ineos because they didn't like it, to a place where they can get free roam.
Yeah, but I think for him it's going to be similar to what it was at Ineos, I guess, with the team and the support that you get there. But as you said, he's going with everything that he wants to have around him. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do and how his career will follow. I feel that, in terms of ambitions of Grand Tours and all that, that should be something that he should think about later in his career. I think for now, as you said, it suits him better to go for the one day stage races and the 1 day races, the classics, and maybe the week stage races. That could be something that he could eye, but I feel that should be more his focus now. Mountain biking is definitely something that goes quite easy for him, and I would love to see him in cyclocross, but I don't think it will happen, to be honest. I feel that he's most likely just going to prepare for the road and be at his best there. But it's going to be interesting to see how that will go, and that departure from Ineos was not something shocking. It was really expecting the way he acted and the way Ineos acted as well. I think that was the best solution, and we will see what he can make of it out there in Q36.5 because, it's not the biggest team. So that's going to be interesting.
They'll probably get the invites for the classics where you can show good things. I mean, Pidcock, of course, has high standards for himself, and people also have high standards for him. But his spring campaigns the past few seasons have not been that bad. Like, this season he still won the Amstel Gold Race and finished 10th in Liège, and he came quite close to a good result in Milan-San Remo, and he was 4th in Strade. He should have finished on the podium if he raced a bit smarter. Last year he won Strade Bianche and he finished 2nd in Liège and 3rd in the gold race. So it's not like he's doing horrible, but obviously expectations are so high for the talent he was, the way he's spoken about, the way he speaks about himself. So that makes sense. I mean, if I recall back to when he joined Ineos, one of the things people were worried about was that the team would be too structured for him and that he would benefit from more freedom. And maybe that is in the end also true. It's the same reason why people say Van der Poel could never join Visma, because it's too structured for him. He needs a bit more freedom. He needs to be able to eat a burger with some fries on TV after Cyclocross World Championships or go to the McDonald's every once in a while. So maybe in the end for Pidcock this will be a relief for him and he can do whatever he wants with the people he trusts, and that will give a mental relief which will boost his performances. That is very possible. I don't think we will see a major improvement for Tom Pidcock. I also don't really know what his plans are. They haven't been announced yet, but it's gone back and forth. So, and after the Tour, there were these stories about him not wanting to do mountain bike anymore, fully focus on winning the Tour or doing good in the Tour GC. So no mountain bike, also no cross, fully focusing on that. And now clearly he has committed to a team where he can't do the Tour, so probably not a Grand Tour in general. So then what does he do? What races will he target? Will he make a big goal out of the World Championships in Rwanda, or will he go back to mountain bike and try and reclaim the world title? I think that's plenty of words attributed to that because, as you know, from what I've just said, there's still a lot of unknowns. We don't know his program. So when we do know that, I suggest we circle back to that, Issam, unless you have any closing remarks on Pidcock.
No, I was going to say, speaking of guys we don't know what their program are, I think Van der Poel, when are we going to get that?
Oh, I remember a few weeks ago you said that in the broadcast not met Penningen, of course it's Roodhoofd for Alpecin, who said in a few weeks it will be there, or this week, or maybe next week.
He said this week,
and then it became next week, and then we're 2 weeks further, a month after that, and we still don't know. The latest is that they have presented their schedule to the race organizers, and that is where they are. So if it's at the race organizers, I would imagine that he does some Christmas cross. Belgian media, Niels Albert speculating, saying he will only do Maasmechelen, Hoogerheide and Worlds, but I don't know where Albert is basing that from. I also saw a column, I think, from Wellens about Van Aert saying this schedule leaves, or it was Albert actually, it was also Albert saying this schedule of Van Aert leaves perfect space to race the World Championships. They're columnists, they need to fill their columns, so I don't really attach too much value to any factualities they try and present, because that's also the nature of columns in Belgian sports papers. So we will see, I guess, Issam. Hopefully it comes tomorrow or the day after or next week, whenever.
We'll see. Oh, God.
Let's wrap up this episode of the Cyclocross Social podcast then. Issam, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We will be back this week covering the X2O Trophy in Herentals, where there is a 2-second gap in the GC between Elie Iserbyt and Lars van der Haar. The women's side is not that tense, but we'll also cover that, of course, as you can count on, halfway point of that series. And then we will be back on Sunday covering the World Cup in Namur. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure to drop a follow, and goodbye.